Hi everyone, this is Renee Francis with A Matter of Perception. We use the stars to help find the missing. And today we're going to be taking a look at the unsolved case and Amber Alert for Kayla Gomez out of Bullard, Texas. She was last seen on November 1st, 2016, around 8 p.m. at the First Assembly Church on Highway 69 in Bullard, Texas. And what we have done is we have taken a look at the stars for the time of her abduction. We got her here at 7:45, as there were some reports about the time. And what we do here is we look at the time and location for where the planets were from Bullard, Texas, at the time of the abduction, and we're looking for the strength of different planets and their aspects. And once we decide which ones are the most holding the most strength, we are going to actually use those aspects to start drawing some vector bearings and radiuses to show distance and direction. To apply some searches. So stay with me for a second. I'm going to get my epic pen up and we're going to draw out some aspects that we're going to take a look at real quick. Just going to give you a very quick lesson in the stars and how wonderful they are. Okay, so this area right here in the chart for the time that she went missing is vital. Okay, and we're saying that right now, at that time, the moon at 4 degrees Sagittarius was exactly opposing this point. Okay, and it was making a square because mutable signs square each other to Neptune. Okay, so we are definitely going to take a look at this direction that's going to be offered. So we're going to do an imaginary point for the opposite end for Virgo from Pisces, and that is going to actually be a square. Okay, so if we wanted to actually show you how that's a square, that's what it's doing. Okay, it's sacred geometry, folks. Um, Okay, so another aspect, let me just go get another color. Okay, another aspect that's very, very strong here in this chart is Mars at the time is square to Uranus. Okay, so this is actually saying to us that somebody did this on impulse, that this probably was not planned. Um, and so if these two are squaring, I want to look and see if there's anything else squaring here, but there is not. So we would actually make another imaginary point this way and another imaginary point that way. Now, it looks like Jupiter down here is 11 degrees Libra, and that is opposing Uranus, but it's about 10 degrees away. And not that that's not strong, because it is strong. We have seen an orb of influence that is as great as 10. But anyway, we're going to draw out a square on the map for that aspect as well. And there's another aspect here that's a little disturbing, and that is the square that Jupiter is actually making to Pluto. So we need to bring in another square here to here, and then this would actually, these 2 points would actually be involved in what's known as a T-square. Okay, so we're going to cover a square from Mars to Uranus. We're going to cover a square from Jupiter to Pluto with Uranus. We're going to cover a square from the moon to Neptune. And there are another aspect that's actually a little disturbing here is that we actually do even have a trine that's happening for the Venus-Saturn conjunction to Uranus. Okay, so we're actually going to do vector bearings for these measurements, and we're actually going to put them in a trine, so we'll have an imaginary point down here for the other fire sign of Leo. Now, let me just shut this off for a second, and I'm going to bring you over to her page. And if we look down here, this is the chart for the time she went missing. Okay, we have a moon Neptune square opposing the ascendant. I already showed you that. The moon, the Mercury and the sun conjunction trine to Neptune. So we're going to draw one out for that. We have the Venus trine and the Mars square. So when we come down here to our interactive map, what I'm going to show you here is let me just do this for 1 second. We're going to get an erase. Let me just erase this for a second because I want to show you something else. what's going to happen is we find in our study of over 25 years that the distance that from point of abduction to point of recovery could be mapped out in these numbers here. Okay, so we have 21 miles, 9 miles, 24 miles, 15, 17, 14, 5, 13, 10, 11. So down here in our map, we have actually have taken care of all those in radiuses. Our longest one being 24 miles. Okay, that should actually be down here. Anyway, all these lines that you see are the vector lines for the aspects as they were occurring. What we've done is we have taken a peek at the disappearance, and then we compared that chart with Kayla's own natal chart, and now we start to see which of Kayla's own planets were tying into the stars at the time of her abduction, and they could actually be giving us clues as to which one of these vector lines she could be falling on. So we see that her natal Jupiter right here, okay, is 14 degrees Scorpio. It's conjuncting the Sun and Mercury at 10 and 13 degrees Scorpio, okay? So we want to pay attention to the vectors that are drawn out for the Sun and for Mercury at the distances offered by the measurement of the planets at the time, because of the fact that the planets are tying in to there. Another thing that we see here is her Sun is 12 degrees Virgo, and it's trining Pluto at the time. So this Pluto Jupiter square is being called in. So we want to pay attention to that one. I'm not too sure about the time that Kayla was born, but we do know from doing charts from the start of the day to the end of the day that her moon is in Aquarius. And it could very, very well be making a square to that Sun and that Mercury in Scorpio. So again, it's tying in. So what we've done here is looking at these ties, we went ahead and we started giving some hot spots here for areas to look immediately. Put your attention to these spots because this is where we think the high probability would be, okay? So when you start looking at this interactive map, and you can zoom in, okay? So say if we wanted to come up here and wanted to really look at this area up here, we can actually really zoom in and see. What do you know as your investigation is moving along? Any serial sex offenders in this area? What do you know? What is coming to light as the investigation moves forward? Do any of these areas show any promise to you from what you're uncovering as your investigation moves along? Now, when you look at these radiuses and you look at these vector lines, I don't want you to limit yourself to saying that they're going to be right on there, because what we'll do is we'll go back here and I'll show you in some solved cases. Let's look at Amber Hagerman. She's the young girl that went out of Arlington, Texas, that the Amber Alert is even was started because of this case. But anyway, what happened was, in the case of Amber, at the point of abduction to point of recovery, she was taken from here, this red target, and her body was found here, the white target. Okay, it was 4 miles as the crow flies from here to here. And the vector was 017 degrees. Okay, so this black vector is measuring, if we pull it out at 360 degrees in the circle, it's measuring 017. Well, that's 17 degrees of Aries. So when we go back in and we look at the chart, at the time of the disappearance, we're saying that the Sun and Neptune had a conjunction of 23 degrees and 25 degrees of Capricorn. So that is squaring this point. The moon at 23 degrees of Libra was 180 degrees away from it, and only a difference by 5 degrees. So you see, this is sacred geometry, folks. Where they're taken and where their bodies are recovered is going to fall on points that are actually part of their own geometry and their makeup for the stars when they were born. We have not laid over any of Amber's own birth stars in here because actually we don't have to. The disappearance chart is working all on its own. So you see, point of the red was where she was taken and where she was recovered, and we're seeing that the points are providing geometric shapes. Okay, let's go take a look at Cherish Periwinkle. This is a case out of Jacksonville, Florida. Cherish was taken where her body was taken. She was taken from here, abducted, walked right out of a Walmart. Her remains were recovered here. Okay, it was 3-mile driving distance. Okay, Cherish's own one of her planets at the time, her Mars was measuring 3 degrees of Capricorn. So we got distance from one of the planet's measurements. Okay, this bearing, black line going down here to where she was found, is 137 degrees of the 360-degree circle, and that is 7 degrees of Leo. And we found that the moon at the time was 11 degrees Sagittarius, and Uranus was 12 degrees Aries. So you have a grand trine to this point. Okay, that's the geometry triangle. Okay, let's go and look at Jessica Ridgway. She's one of the newer cases, Westminster, Colorado. Okay, Jessica was taken and on her way to school, leaving her house. She left her house here. Okay, her remains were found here. Okay, it was 4.9. It was 5.94 miles as the crow flies. Uranus at the time of the disappearance was measuring 6 degrees. Okay, so there again, we had a planet giving us close proximity to the distance that she was taken. This vector bearing from a point of her home to where her remains were covered measures 238 degrees, which can also be expressed as 28 degrees of Scorpio. We cited that Mars at the time of the disappearance was exactly 28 degrees of Scorpio. So Mars's own vector bearing drew out right to where her remains were recovered. Okay. At the same time, Venus at 2 degrees Virgo and Neptune at 0 degrees Pisces was actually giving us making a square to those aspects, because in 2 more degrees, Mars would have moved into Sagittarius, squaring these other mutables. Okay, so what we have here is a T-square. Cherish Pinkle was found on a T-square. I'm sorry, Jessica Ridgway was found on a T-square. Let's go look at, this is a college student out of, I think this was also Texas, Denton, Texas. She was last seen leaving a bar with a Charles Dean Bryant, and they left the bar here. He lived here. Her remains were found here. Again, we have a 160-degree Mercury, which is 19 degrees Virgo, from the point of where she was last seen leaving a bar with him to her recovery. Her Venus at the time was 18 degrees of Libra, and it was offering us the distance of the 18 miles actually to her remains. And then the Virgo here, we had Mars at 21 degrees Sagittarius squaring this point here. And that was actually going to Brian's residence, squaring this point where she was taken. So again, actually we can actually look at get residence, assailant's residence addresses this way as well. Let me see. So one more case. Okay, here's an interesting case. This is 4 teenage boys out of Newark, New Jersey, back in 1978. It took them 32 years to solve this case. But what happened here was the boys were last seen getting a ride with someone that they used to work with. And later it was found out that the gentleman they used to work with, one of their cousins, said that they locked the boys in an abandoned house right here on 256 Cannon Street, nailed it shut, and set it on fire. Each one of these boys in their own birth charts had planets that measured in degrees that would either square, trine, or conjoin this spot. Okay, Alvin Turner's Venus was 18 degrees Taurus. The bearing to this, from where they were last seen to where their remains were found, was 17 degrees Taurus. Okay, it was 48 degrees. That's 18 degrees Taurus. The ascendant was 17 degrees Taurus when they were last seen. So we even have 3 vectors from even in the birth at the time of the disappearance, pulling right out to where the remains were found. So again, let's go back and let's look at this unsolved cases of Kayla Gomez. And remember, we're not thinking that our techniques are to replace sound investigative procedures. What we believe in our hearts and we're committed to prove is that we can actually use the planets at the time and location of a child or an adult's abduction and get the possible distances and directions to immediately search for their recovery. Now, some of the things that we're seeing in this chart as well, for when she was disappeared, and this is very important because this can actually give us a little hint about the person who could be responsible for this. I'm not liking the Sun and Mercury right here in the 6th house, and then learning that there was a diner very close by. I would definitely check out anybody, customers coming in and out of there, maybe even a worker that was coming in and out of there. It just looks a little too close to home. Another thing that bothers me here is that the moon is very prominent in this case, and then it's opposing the ascendant. You can't even eliminate the possibility of this being a woman because it is also trining Neptune. I mean, this could be somebody who wants to take a companion home to a mate. I know that is a very disturbing scenario, but it is a possibility from these stars. What I'm trying to say is that it wouldn't surprise me to learn that there could be a woman's involvement in this somehow. Anyway, that's about it. We hope that you will go ahead and take your time and explore our website and the other cases here that are unsolved. They speak for themselves, and there isn't any reason why this work cannot be used in trying to bring a child home. They say it takes a community to raise a child. Well, it's going to take a village to bring them home. So please share our work and support us. We do this out of the goodness of our hearts and because we believe in we believe in what we do. We are not in this for any reward. We are not in this for any public fame. As a matter of fact, we prefer to stay in the shadows. Anyway, so thanks for watching, and let's cross our fingers that Kayla Gomez is found and that she is brought home to her family. Thank you for watching.